And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what I believe is part 28 of the Pokemon Gold walkthrough. First thing that we're going to be doing is going back and collecting an item that I forgot to take before the end of the last video, getting the TM, whatever number it was, which is actually Sludge Bomb. Once you take care of once you take care of Team Rocket, I think you have to take care of the hideout, Team Rocket in there. Once they leave, then you can go talk to that guard, and then he'll give you the TM for Sludge Bomb. And after that, our next journey is to head to the radio tower and see what is amiss within Goldenrod. Having all these Team Rocket members everywhere, and this whole entire video is dedicated to the radio tower itself. After you get done with the radio tower and get a key, you got to go underground to find a certain captured person, but that's not going to be taken care of till the next video. I really didn't think this video would run as long as it did. This part here is about a good 19 to 20 minutes long, and that's just for the first half of the radio tower. So it kind of gives you and it's not even so much the length of it obviously comes from all the trainer fights, because there's like, you know, we start with this one on the ground floor, but then every single level after that has about a good 3 to 5 Rocket members on every single floor. Some of them have, you know, only 1 to 2 Pokemon, but some of them have up to 5 or 6. And as easy as they are, it still takes a while to be able to battle through them all. So that's what the whole entire video is going to be, is just taking on Team Rocket in the radio tower. And once again, because we're not in a new area, no stats to go through or anything. So I guess what I'm gonna do is use this time to go over some things going on within the football world, because I really got nothing else to talk about Pokemon wise at this current point in time, because as I said, there really is nothing to talk about. You're just continuously facing off against Team Rocket. You go, you know, Rattatas, Zubat, Grimers, coughing. You get an occasional wheezing. There's like the one we're going against right now has an Arbok, still very easy. You go against a Muck. One of them has a Porygon. You go against some scientists. One of those scientists has a Porygon and some other. Not interesting, but different than what Team Rocket has. It's nothing really all that special, so I figured let's go ahead and take a look into the football world and see what's going on in there. The NFL draft has been done, and it is definitely not the most depending on how you look at it, though, it could be viewed as the most interesting draft, and it could be looked at as the most boring draft, because we didn't really have anything as far as main positions within football teams go. There were no elite quarterbacks coming into this. There wasn't any real elite running backs coming into this. Nothing extremely elite as far as wide receivers go. This draft was focused on pretty much nothing but the offensive line and the defensive line. And for some people that could be a little bit more interesting, because then you could get potentially some good steals later on in the draft. Like a wide receiver that wasn't projected as a first rounder could be taken up in like the 4th round, but play at a first round caliber. So you could get some really good steals in this draft, but there was really no elite quarterbacks. First one to go was E.J. Manuel going to the Buffalo Bills. That was a really big surprise there. Because I can't remember if the Bills didn't trade up. I don't think they ended up getting rid of one of their earlier trades to the Rams, who got Tavon Austin, a wide receiver, going against our rival, the Seahawks. That can be looked as a good pickup. However, the kid is really small. I think they said about 5'6", 5'7", and you're only able to really use him for slot routes and maybe some hitch routes, and that's about it. You can't really use them for any deep threats, and especially going against the teams such as the 49ers and the Seahawks with as big as defenses as we have. Even the Arizona Cardinals have a pretty good defense going on for them. I just don't really see how much of a threat he's really going to be. But in that, the Bills selected a quarterback, actually taking E.J. Manuel, the very first quarterback to go off, and everyone expected Geno Smith from West Virginia to be the very first quarterback to be taken in the draft, and he ended up falling to the 2nd round, and him being a complete crying ass bitch, fired his agent. Originally heard that he fired his agent because that he was he expected himself to go in the first round and he didn't. Well, apparently he expected to go first overall, which it's like, okay, you are nowhere near good enough for a first round, let alone first overall. And the fact that you're firing your agent over something like that, that is just, you're nothing but a crying ass little bitch. That's all you really are. He's going to the Jets. When I first saw him go to the Jets, I first felt a little bit sorry for him because of the Jets. I don't know if I have anybody as a fan base of the Jets, but I'm sorry. Your franchise is kind of the laughingstock of the NFL right now, deservingly so. Maybe within the next 5 years they'll get good. I mean, hey, look at me. I'm a fan of the Seahawks. 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, we were a laughingstock. Even last year, 2 years ago, in 2011, we were a laughingstock. It wasn't until last year where we finally found an identity for ourselves and we actually started to roll with it with our quarterback and extremely good defense. And so, who knows, 5 years from now, you guys could be on top of the world, kind of like how the Seahawks and 49ers went from the bottom of the food chain and now are the two toughest teams in the NFL right now. But, when I first heard he was going to the Jets, I felt sorry for him, having to wait for a while to go to a really sorry-ass team. But then after hearing about the fact that he fired his agent because he's nothing but a crybaby, you deserve to go to the Jets. And I hope you just get your ass lit up on the field and expose the fact as to why you are not worth a first rounder like that. Hearing about that, I'm sorry, that really pissed me off. Agents do not control what happened in an NFL draft. A team wants you, they'll take you. They don't, they're not going to take you. No matter what your agent do, your agent can talk until their tongue is dragging on the floor. If the team does not need a quarterback, they're not going to take a quarterback. And if the team doesn't think you're good enough to be a first-round pick, they're not going to take you first round. It's as simple as that. Your agent has no control over that. And so hearing that you're firing your agent because you didn't go first overall when you're not even a first-round material in the first place, yeah, have fun with the Jets. I hope you get the shit kicked out of you in practice, in games, and anything that you end up doing. With that said, one of the biggest debates going on right now is exactly who is the better team in the NFL offseason-wise currently, the Seahawks or the 49ers. Now, I don't like the fact that debates are going on right now as to which is the better team of those two because of the fact that we're still in the offseason. Preseason doesn't start until August, and we've yet to see, from the picks we've got, certain offseason trades, us getting Percy Harvin, them getting Anquan Bolden. The picks we made in the draft, supposedly people are talking about one of the biggest steals in the draft is the Seahawks taking, I think his name was Jesse Williams from Alabama, defensive tackle, who was a projected second rounder, picked in the fourth round because of the fact that it was either a medical history or the fact that his medical exams with teams didn't show too positive. They're talking about that being the steal of the draft, but again, we're not exactly sure until even the preseason starts. And, like I said, right now, fans are talking about who's the better team, the Seahawks or 49ers. They're going at it. And I'm not exactly liking it. By the way, I get Kui Lava to go into Typhlosion right here. I'm not exactly liking it because, once again, we haven't even started the season yet. We're going based on what's written on paper, the players' names, all that stuff. We don't know if any injuries are going to happen with Russell Wilson or Colin Kaepernick, two quarterbacks, which are both scramble and mobile type quarterbacks, which usually never votes well being a quarterback in the NFL because they're easily to get injured. Look at what happened to RG3 last year against the Seahawks. Well, even before against the Seahawks. I think it was when he was going against the Ravens and he injured himself, and then it came back in the postseason against the Seahawks to hurt him a little bit more there. He was very mobile. I don't think Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson are as mobile as RG3 was, and RG3 is definitely going to have to change up his playing style if he wants to do anything next year in the NFL. But either way, even being a scrambling type, you're a little bit more prone to injury. And so with that, it's hard to say which are going to be the best of the two when you don't know what kind of injuries are going to happen. Percy Harvin's been known to sit out for migraines and mild injuries with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, people are also saying that he did that because he didn't want to be with the Minnesota Vikings and didn't think he was being utilized well. With the Seahawks, he can be very well utilized because, right now we have Sidney Rice and Golden Tate, two good wide receivers, but not exactly explosive go-to wide receivers. And now we actually have one with Percy Harvin, so we'll be targeting him a little bit more. But at the same time, you never know. Maybe he could do what he did when he was in Minnesota. If we don't target him as much as he wants to, will he go back to having his migraines? Will he go back to, having his little mild injuries that takes him out for a whole entire game? We're not exactly sure. And will it hurt us? I wouldn't say so because of the fact that I feel like, with Golden Tate and Sidney Rice, they're not they're not explosive wide receivers, but they've done well enough to get us to win the wild card game last year and almost win the divisional round as well, going into the NFC Conference Championship. So basically, it's hard to tell what's going to happen because injuries can happen so easily, even though the NFL has been quote-unquote going into a safer practice. Injuries are still going to happen. And because of that, it's hard to say during the offseason who's going to be the best team coming up. I mean, sometimes you could tell just by, looking on paper. I remember a year ago, it was guessed that the Super Bowl would be the Baltimore Ravens and the Green Bay Packers, and the Green Bay Packers would win it. Well, they were somewhat right because of the fact that the Baltimore Ravens were the ones to get the Super Bowl, but they were the ones that actually won it, and right now they're saying that it'll be either the Broncos and the Patriots going against either the 49ers or the Seahawks, and it's very likely because right now, those four teams are pretty much in the top of their conferences. A little bit, it's very easy to see if the Broncos or the Patriots will be able to make it because the AFC isn't really built strong like the NFC is. With the NFC alone, you could easily come up with an excuse for almost every team that could make the playoffs. With the AFC, it's basically written down on who can win what. It's quite obvious that the Broncos will win. It's quite obvious that the Patriots will win, although the Dolphins are starting to come up. They got a good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Their defense is probably one of the best in that division, probably one of the best in that conference, even rivaling against the Denver Broncos, especially their run defense. It's incredible, and they have a good chance of rivaling the Patriots, but I don't really see the Bills or the Jets rivaling either of those two. So it can be said that the Patriots can do it, but again, the Dolphins have a good shot at it. But I give the Dolphins one more year before having an extremely legitimate chance. So there you go. Broncos, you got the Chargers, the Raiders, the Chiefs. I don't see any of those three teams doing anything, so the Broncos have that one. Houston Texans or the Indianapolis Colts. I don't see the Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars doing anything. And then I don't see the Browns or the Steelers doing anything. Ravens maybe, but after losing so many good units on their defense and even Anquan Bolden going over to the 49ers, I don't see them putting up as much of a challenge against the Bengals, so I see the Bengals winning that one. And that's all that can be said about the AFC. You can already kind of tell who's going to win what. I see the Bengals, Patriots, Texans, and who was the other team? Bengals, Patriots, Texans, and Broncos winning their divisions, with either the Dolphins and the Colts being the two wild cards. I mean, I can call it right there. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. In the NFC, again, you can make an argument for any team, starting with the NFC West, where my Seahawks are. Seahawks and 49ers are considered to be the two best teams in the NFL today right now. So you can guarantee that those two have a good shot of not only winning the division, but getting a wild card either way. The Rams are really getting there. They got a good defense. Their offense needs to pick it up a little bit, and they think that with Tavon Austin, they're going to be able to pick it up even more. But again, Tavon Austin can only be really used in some hitch routes and mainly with slot routes. So I don't see them putting up as big of a threat, but they can, and there's still a good chance of getting a possible wild card. There's a good chance that the Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams could all make it, one winning the division and the other two getting the wild card. And then the Cardinals, their defense is pretty solid, and especially with last year, the way they started, I think they started off 4-0, even beating the Patriots, and then they kind of just fell off the grid. If they could hold it together with a new, with getting their quarterback Carson Palmer, getting some offensive linemen to help them out, they could pose a threat. I don't see them posing a real big threat till about another 1 to 2 years down the road, but even now, they could still pose a little bit of a threat. You go to the NFC North, Packers are good. Bears, they're still having trouble figuring out the fact that they cannot win on defense alone. They're starting to get some offensive linemen to protect Jay Cutler, which could be a big help to them because they need a lot more offense because, again, defenses are going to get you everywhere in the NFL today like it used to in the past. And I know the Bears are a very defensive-minded team, but at the same time, you're going to need a little bit of offense. Look back in 2000 with the Ravens. The Ravens had arguably one of the greatest defenses ever, but their offense was struggling, and until they put in Trent Dilfer to put up some numbers, even though he wasn't the greatest quarterback, he still managed it well enough to get enough points on the board that their defense could stop. The defense could put up enough of a stop in order to make sure that they would win the game. 2002 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had one of the better defenses ever. I'd argue even one of the best, even compared to the 2000 Ravens and the 1985 Bears. and their offense wasn't really getting it done until John Gruden came in and pretty much stomped on the offense, making sure that they were good enough to score some points so that then the defense, can hold them off. And I can't see the Bears doing that nowadays. They need at least some bit of an offense. And, it looks like by drafting, I think his name was Kyle Long, Howie Long's son, to the Bears as a guard, that can help out Jay Cutler a little bit. So we're going to see how that goes. Vikings, they have Adrian Peterson, the greatest running back in the sport today, probably even argued one of the best running backs of all time. But that's all they have. And again, I don't really see them doing too much with just one person because they gave up a lot of their best players to the Seahawks. They lost Percy Harvin, even though, he did a lot of sitting out. At the same time, he was still a guy that you had to target. Christian Ponder is an okay quarterback, but, again, until he gets some weapons, I don't see him doing too much with it. And then the Lions, I believe, are going to sneak up on everybody because of the fact that they finally got themselves a decent running back in Reggie Bush. They have a good quarterback in Matthew Stafford. They've got the greatest wide receiver in the sport today in Calvin Johnson, Megatron. And now that they have a running back in Reggie Bush to be able to do more play-action type moves, that's going to make them a little bit better. And then, of course, the Packers are the Packers. I don't really see them doing too much this year as opposed to a couple years back because they paid so much money to Aaron Rodgers that they didn't really have a lot of money going to a lot of their other weapons that they needed as far as wide receivers go, and that's going to hurt them a little bit. But they did, however, draft Eddie Lacy out of the draft, who was considered one of the best running backs coming into this, but he fell short because of medical records. And with a running back like that again, the same way it helped out with the Lions, it can help out with the Packers as well. So they're always going to be a threat. So that's a good 3 to 4 possible teams that could make it at least to the wild card. I mean, the Bears last year almost made it to the wild card, except for the fact that the Minnesota Vikings barely snuck in there, and the fact that they fired Lovie Smith over it is still a really ridiculous thing in my mind. But what can you do? The NFC South. The Falcons are already one of the greater teams, and they're already predicted to go into the playoffs, no problem. The Saints, while not doing too well last year, finally have their head coach Sean Payton back, which can help numerous times. And I feel that, everyone's talking about the offensive linemen. They're taking guesses as to who was the best draft pick between the offensive linemen. I really think the best draft pick in the whole entire draft was them getting Kenny Vaccaro for a free safety, because he plays exactly like Earl Thomas does, and Earl Thomas is one of the best safeties in the game right now with the Seahawks, and Kenny Vaccaro kind of basically styled his playing to that because he played with him down in Texas, and so now he's going to be with the New Orleans Saints. That's going to help him out big time because they really didn't have one of the greatest secondaries, and now that's going to help them out too. And once again, getting your head coach back is going to be one of the biggest things that the New Orleans Saints need, so that's going to bring them back up. Panthers, I don't really see doing too much. The Buccaneers, I can see them doing a little bit, but not enough. I still think that they need a few more weapons on offense and a stronger defense like they used to have back in 2002 before they can make a real contention. But they are still something. They're really good with their fourth quarter comebacks, or at least they were a year ago, 2 years ago. This last year, not so much, but they're still a pretty good team. They drafted a tight end, can't remember his name, but that's going to be a big help to them for Josh Freeman to throw to. So, they can do something this upcoming year. And then the NFC East with Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, and Redskins. Giants are always going to be in contention to go to the playoffs no matter what. Cowboys can. I know Tony Romo's not exactly the greatest quarterback out there, but at the same time, he can do something. They've still got a pretty decent team, so we can see him do something. Redskins, again, with RG3, if he can stay healthy, if he changes up his playing style to get less injury prone, they're still a contention to win the division, if not a wild card. And then the only laughable team in that is the Eagles, especially with Chip Kelly, the way he left Oregon like that. I hope he gets crushed and dominated. But that still gives you 3 more possible contentions teams. So as opposed to the 6 that can be named already in the AFC, as opposed to the 12 that you could easily name in the NFC, it's easy to say the NFC is the more powerhouse team, and it just, any team can really make it, and that's what's going to make it so exciting this year. And that's it for Pokemon Gold. I'm glad that you stayed to listen to my rambles going on what's going on with football. Maybe I should start a segment for football in itself because I still have a lot more to say. But you know what? That'll be something I'll think about doing later on. I want to try and keep this channel mainly gamings, but I had nothing else to talk about. So there you go. There's your little thing of what's going on with football today if you're not really into it. And hope you guys have a good day, everybody.